Stephen Herbert, August 2018. I'm cleaning this Zoopraxiscope replica, which I'm now calling replica number 2, because Kingston Museum has 2 replica mechanisms. This was the one that was originally given to the museum, made for the museum by the British Aerospace company in the early 1980s. I think it might have been used to demonstrate the gearing system. There's a motor drive, a modern 1980s motor drive electric system in here, and the idea was that there would be a drive belt which would demonstrate the gearing system working. And that might have happened in the 1980s exhibition at Kingston Museum. I don't remember it working when I went to see the exhibition, so perhaps it wasn't ever set up, or perhaps it was used for a short while. Anyway, since that exhibition was cleared away in the early 90s, I'm pretty sure that this has never been used for projection. And I'm just giving it a very light clean. Essentially, the brass was not originally lacquered, so it's picked up, as you can probably see better here, a lot of finger marks on the brass and grease marks from handling. Now, I've tried simple green, very gentle cleaner. I've tried isopropyl alcohol, and I've also tried a proprietary degreaser, and it's not shifting those grease marks. So I think the only thing that would shift them would be a conventional metal polish, which of course is abrasive, so I won't be doing that. At some point they do need a professional degreasing, not urgent. Some of the steel parts were showing quite a lot of rust, and I've removed most of the rust as much as I can without disassembly. That's as much as I'm going to do there. Put the lights back on. So this steel part, for instance, was quite rusty. I've cleaned what I can, or I am cleaning what I can without disassembly, at which point I will label it up as Zoopraxiscope mechanism number 2, details of what I've done. The system for moving the side aperture plates, which should be operated by that lever, that one just moves a little, but essentially it's all become disassembled. So I'm going to take this off, reassemble that system, and then put the shutter back. Okay, the shutter disc is off, and although I can refit that into there very easily, the other one won't operate because it's missing a nut and bolt here. You can see the nut and bolt that holds the other side, and here it drops off. So I'm going to put a replacement nut and bolt. It won't match the other side, but it'll do the job, and it's hidden. So that's what I'm about to do to make the aperture, that is the picture shape plates mechanism, operative again before it goes away. So these are now back in position on the plates, and I've replaced the missing one of these over this side with a nut and bolt. Now this system, this is very, very basic short fat nut and bolt. It's not really adequate for demonstrating the system. At some point that's going to drop off as well, so there needs to be some slightly better retainer swivel arrangement made for those, but in the meantime it is working, and it'll be fine until such time as it's decided to make the necessary improvement. If I turn the crank, That knock that you can hear is part of that lever arrangement. What happens is the knurled nut here just fouls one of the screws inside there. Not the one I've just fitted, the one that was original. And as you can now hear, with the aperture plates wide, it doesn't foul it. And there are just certain positions, there you go, where it knocks. So if you get a knocking noise, you need to move the aperture plates, aspect ratio plates, until it disappears. Until such time as that mechanism that I mentioned before is basically slightly redesigned to be more practical. It's also okay with the plates completely closed. So that's the current situation. Now, this little retainer on the other replica mechanism, there's a keyway and you can push it, pull it and lift it out. This one doesn't want to do that. I'm not going to force it. There is another way to get this shutter disc off, which is simply to take off this knurled knob here and slide the shaft out. And at any point that someone wanted to display this with a disc, that's another way to do it. I'll also mention that on this knurled knob on the back of the shaft that holds the shutter and disc, there should be another small retaining knob, and it's missing. And that's necessary if this is ever going to be used actually for projection. So there would need to be at least a wing nut or something on there that's going to hold that tight. Otherwise the disc mechanism is going to loosen up and the disc is going to fall off. Now, there is a system on these Zoopraxiscope mechanisms. You can see that the carcass is in two sections, and the idea is that the central carcass with the shutter and the disc on can move up and down within the main body. And the way that that is done is by turning this handle, and that in turn turns the bevel gears down there, and that lifts the carcass up and down. And the vertical shaft on the right there with the large bevel gear has come out of its housing. So that system is not working. To get it working wouldn't be a big job, but it does require disassembly of the whole mechanism, and I'm not going to do it now. Now, the reason why the centre section needs to go up and down is some of my British discs have an image just around the edge of the disc, and some have an image that extends through the whole of the disc, almost to the centre. And in order to keep the image in the same place, centred to the screen, you have to sort of move the mechanism up and down. The gearing system here, very solid brass gears. I haven't greased them because grease attracts dust, and unless it's going to be used extensively, it doesn't really need greasing. My feeling is that this is a display item that could occasionally be used in a seminar to display the mechanism working. And it could be used for projection, but it would first need that disassembly to make everything 100%. So that's it. The wood's in pretty good condition. It doesn't appear to need waxing, which suggests that it had a polyurethane varnish originally, because it looks as new, except where there is some small damage. Here there's been a bash, and there are a few small scratches, which you can see, these abrasions, but generally it's good. And I'm giving it a dust, and I'm just going to leave it. I won't put carnauba wax on it because it's probably, as I say, polyurethane. If not, it doesn't need waxing anyway at the moment. So what I'm going to do, finish that, then this will be packed away with a label on it explaining what I've done, and that will be packed away in its original packing case here. ready to go back to Kingston Museum store. The motor system that's in the base is from the 1980s, and I would suggest that it's not suitable for use today. So if a motor drive is required, then at least parts of that need to be rebuilt to modern standards.